We're getting there. We're getting there. We're gonna start soon. All right, we're gonna bridge one more minute, and then we'll just get started.
Does it take 4 or 3? Does it take 4 or 3?
3. I know he's on his way, but I'm sure it's always hard to get out, all the kids, all the things. Okay, Kim, will you go ahead and get us started and just call the meeting to order?
Sure. Calling the meeting to order with Justin and Sam and myself and Katie.
Okay. First item.
Oh, first item is public hearing, water conservation and landscaping code text amendment.
Thank you. Okay, so probably some of you remember talking about this a few months ago. We talked about taking the water restrictions that we've had in place for the past several years and making those more permanent instead of the same type of water restrictions, that it's a water conservation regulation. So it's something that we're gonna do continually to help conserve water, because we've had so many drought years until this year. And then you might remember Byron Ames at the meeting. He said that he wanted to participate in some programs to where you get a rebate for replacing part of his lawn. And he wasn't able to participate in those programs because we weren't participating in these ordinances that the state wants us to do. So you might have seen the email. I think I put it in the packet. I'm just gonna scroll down to that. So this was the email I received from Savannah Peterson. She's works for Central Water Conservation District, and she said that she was notifying us that the water efficiency standards that need to be adopted into municipal codes by January 1st, 2024 for continued eligibility for your city and residents in the Water Wise Landscaping Incentive Programs operated by Central Utah Water Conservation District. So if we want our residents and the city to be able to keep participating in these types of programs, then we have to adopt this code by January 1st. And she said specifically that there were some things in section 4 of that code, the example code they said that we had to adopt. So those were lawns not less than 8 feet wide at the narrowest point. They want to make sure we don't have any tiny little strips. Lawns shall not exceed 50% of the total landscape area. And that means the landscape area is the approved areas of the property and incorporates the completed features of the landscape. The landscape area does not include footprints of buildings or structures, sidewalks, driveways, and other non-irrigated areas intentionally left undeveloped. So any area that is near, by the way, this only applies to front yards in Francis, but any area that's not part of the building plan or driveway or sidewalk, where you can landscape, they're saying only 50% of that can be grass. There's an exception for certain small residential lots, which I don't know applies to the properties in Francis. Almost everyone has a fairly large lot, even in the cottage zone, they're bigger than what's here. And then these apply more to the commercial and light industrial public facility zones, but lawns should not be installed in park strips, paths, or on slopes greater than 25% or a 4:1 grade. And commercial, industrial, institutional, and multifamily development, common area, landscapes, lawn area shall not exceed 20% of the total landscape area outside of active recreation areas. So, I looked at applying that to our code and what that would look like. So there's really two pieces to this. One is the water conservation piece that we discussed before, and the second is the landscaping. The Central Utah Water is requesting to remove, and really the state. I think that was part of the last state legislature to say, if you want to participate in our programs, you're going to do what we ask you to do. So, back up, looking at what this looks like in the code. So this one is the water conservation regulations, changing the title of the section to that, and then taking out the part that says this is an option that the city may impose at any time, and saying that it is imposed by the city for outdoor watering. And then it's the regulations that we've all probably gotten used to the last few years. So water between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., no watering on Sunday, and even numbered houses on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, odd numbered on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And then as part of that, we take out this section about the options imposed, and that's actually copied down here. Most of the wording from that is copied down into this item 4. It just made more sense logically to me to put that down there. So now the new section 2 covers violations, and we're striking any restrictions imposed shall remain in place until lifted by action of the Francis City Council. That is covered in item 4. It says any additional restrictions. And then what was paragraph 4 basically it stays the same, it's just paragraph 3, and that covers the exceptions. And then paragraph 4 was mostly just copied from above, but changing the wording to say that additional regulations may be determined, implemented, and announced by the mayor at any time, effective immediately, but shall be ratified, amended, or lifted by the city council at its next regularly scheduled meeting thereafter. Any restrictions imposed shall remain in place until lifted by action of the city council. Okay. So that has to do with all water conservation. Does anyone want to talk about that now, or should I keep going with the landscaping?
I think most of my questions were in landscaping, so let's go there.
Let's keep going. All right, so landscaping, have to add some definitions because of the code that they're requesting. So I use the definitions that they use. Lawn means ground that is covered with grass or turf that is regularly mowed. Park strip means a typically narrow landscape area located between the back of curb and sidewalk. Total landscape area, and it means the approved areas of property that incorporate all the completed features of the landscape. The landscape area does not include footprints of buildings or structures, sidewalks, driveways, and other non-irrigated areas intentionally left undeveloped. So, there are several places in our code where we needed to incorporate these guidelines. So the first part is in our supplemental provisions that cover landscaping for everybody in the city. So right now, it just says that you're supposed to landscape the front of residential lots. And it gives some examples of what that might look like. We'd be adding these restrictions onto there, or these standards. They're the exact same as what we went over earlier that the state set. So the exact same ones. Yeah, I tried to break it down a little bit more, so I thought it was more clear from what the state said, but it's the same wording. I can go through it if you want, but I feel like we already went through that. So then I also had to add wording to, this is our commercial code for landscaping. We already had it there that all submitted landscape plans shall be designed to encourage water conservation as a primary consideration. So then I just added that into that, the requirement about park strips and slopes, and that for those areas, the lawns can't exceed 20%. And then if they have a recreational facility, like a sports field, it would be okay in that area. Then the next section is the public facility zone, same exact wording. And finally, the light industrial zone, again, same exact wording. I did incorporate into public facilities and the light industrial, the same requirement that all the landscape plans have to be designed to encourage water conservation. So it's consistent throughout the code. And I think that is about it for the changes. So, Kim, if you want to open up a public hearing.
Yeah, we'd like to open up a public hearing on how you feel about this. Did you get a chance to look over, or did you have
Who's
any
here for
questions?
another item?
I'm here for the other things.
Do you want to comment on this? Okay.
We would love you to comment on this.
This is the first I've seen about it.
All right.
All right, so you can close it.
So we're closing it then.
Yeah. Okay, so now you can, talk amongst yourselves.
What do you guys think?
So does this just include the front yard
This is just for the front yard.
in order to meet the requirements for
Yes.
the rebates for the state, which we're not currently?
Yeah, I want to make sure that's clear here, but that was my intention, was to make it just for the front yard. It says, apply to residential front and side yards and to developer, contractor installed residential area landscaping. So, not big,
Yeah, I think,
residential thing, yeah.
yeah, my concern's sort of a point now, because I was more concerned about lots like mine where the front is very small, easily can achieve that. The backyard, only being able to landscape 50%,
That would be tough.
that would be tough. So I think in this case, if it's only applying to the front and creates a rebate opportunity for those who wish, then I think I'm on board. But I was ready to fight.
Well, in some of the other documents they sent me, they talked about how people use their backyard a lot more than the front.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons. And then I was thinking about my yard, and we kind of did the ground measurement, and actually, if you know where I live, you see my yard, there's actually quite a bit of grass in the front. But technically, we need the required. Because if we take out all the retaining walls and the rock areas and everything like that, I feel like we have a good amount of grass, and we still meet the requirements, so that made me feel a little bit better about it.
This is for new construction.
Right, so this only applies to new construction. And everyone else is grandfathered in.
But if you wanted to apply for the rebate, you would then have to meet these requirements.
Absolutely.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
And then who comes out and does the assessment? Is it the state? or-
No, it would be a city responsibility for enforcement, so I've thought about how we would handle that, because most cities, not most, but a lot of the bigger cities used to require that before you could get a certificate of occupancy, your front yard had to be landscaped. We've never required that for a certificate of occupancy. So, and actually the state doesn't even allow you to do that anymore, so we can't start requiring it. But, anyway, my thought is, we already have a list that we use to look at the driveway bond. When people build a house, there's a $1,000 driveway bond that's issued at the same time. So when they get a certificate of occupancy, we put their name on that list. And then a couple times a year, we go out and inspect the driveway. So I would just ask for a copy of that list and that the certificate of occupancies would go out. And then maybe like once a year, I would go out and kind of check and see if it looks like it's complying. We could also require people to submit a landscape plan, but I kind of don't want to have to go to that measure now, so I prefer just to do like a visual inspection and get. If I feel like there's one that's pushing it, then I might ask them for measurements, but otherwise, I think it would just be mostly a driving around once a year, checking to see who's finished their landscaping in the front and seeing if they're complying. And I would put these new regulations in the building permit packet so that people are aware of them.
So you would be the one that would be going in.
Yeah.
Because you already don't have enough
I
to
don't
do.
have enough to do, so luckily they thought of one for me.
Can you remind me, do we even remember what the rebate or tax break or whatever it goes along with all of this work for people?
There are several different programs that are, one of them that Byron was talking about has to do with pulling up your lawn and replacing it with other materials. But I know there are a lot of different programs. There's one that's for municipalities. Like if we wanted to get some funding to help with our new building for the landscaping there, you could actually probably qualify because we're taking out all that grass, we're putting down a new building, and then we could get some really nice xeriscape landscape to go around it and probably get some help from the state paying for it. So it's hard to say no to being able to qualify for some of those programs.
No point in voting, right?
No, we can vote. There's 3 of you.
Do you want to vote for it?
No, I do all of them, you go ahead.
Make a motion.
I motion that we ratify it.
As written.
I second. Okay,
Take a vote, roll call vote.
Justin?
Aye.
Sam? Aye.
Awesome.
So we're unanimous.
Unanimous. We'll pass this on to city council for them to consider.
Okay, good.
Unanimous positive recommendation. Thank you for jumping in as the MC here, Kim. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten a text from Justin or from Rich yet. Maybe you forgot that we're at 7 or 6
Did you
o'clock.
text him again?
I'm going to real quick. I'll just see if he's where he's at. Make sure he's okay. Because he texted me not that long ago and said he was coming.
Yeah, he was in that same thread.
Yeah, the same thread that you were all in, just to check and make sure everyone's on their way. Okay, we'll see, if not.
Are we ready for the next item?
All right, for the next item on the agenda, so that is,
Mike Crittenden,
Yeah.
subdivision concept plan.
we'll have you come up in a minute and talk, you can just hang out there for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so Mike Crittenden owns a parcel in Francis. Well, actually, his dad does.
Well,
Oh, you're Wyatt, I'm sorry. This is Wyatt Crittenden. His dad, Mike, owns the parcel. Wyatt's applying for the subdivision with the approval of his dad. Okay, so the property is, it's right here. Must be your response. Okay.
I need to call you back.
Hey. 6. Okay, thanks. Bye.
We should have come, set up the meeting before you.
Hey, I have a planning commission meeting, can I call you back? Okay, no problem. Bye.
All right, few calls, now we're good. So, I'll zoom in here in a sec, but this is the area right here. So, this is where we are right now. This is 35 or 2200 south, and then you turn and go to Willow Way. If you go north, you're on Foothill. If you go south, you're on Willow Way. So the property is just right at that corner. The part they're talking about subdividing though is on this southern half.
Okay.
So they've already subdivided, some pieces of it quite a while ago. They made the 3 lots here, and now they're wanting a place for some of the grandkids to live. So, they're asking to do 7 lots, and this is on a 17.6 acre parcel. So a large portion of it just will be left as agricultural. But, let's see, let me go back to these ones. Okay. So this is the half that they're wanting to subdivide. This is an existing lot, it's where he lives now, and then they'd be creating these 7 lots going to the back. Okay, so, the property is zoned about, well, the first 330 feet are residential half, and the back is Ag 1. So the first 330 feet, the half acre lots, the back one's acre or more. And another requirement we have in the RH zone is that all the lots have to have at least 100 feet of frontage on a public or private road. So all the lots meet that requirement, they're all a good size. There's a few things we need to talk about, but we'll get to that. And the ones in the back have to have at least 150 feet of frontage, they do, and they have to be at least 1 acre, and they are. So they meet the requirements, but there is a little question we have to discuss that has to do with the zoning, so we'll get to that in a minute. Planning to do a hammerhead turnaround at the back here.
So the hammerhead is not on Willow Way, it's on the,
Right, so here's Willow Way out here. So this would be Willow Way, they have to build a new road, 60 feet of right of way, 30 feet of that will be asphalt. So that's the city standard. So they put this right of way in and then build these lots. This is a concept plan that we're looking at here. So the very first step, and we'll be seeing this again later, so keep going.
so lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 are on the south end of the parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so just kind of,
Because normally the top of the map is north.
yeah, that's true.
It's concept,
It's a concept. This is the concept plan level. And when you see a plat, it'll be switched around. Okay. So the 60-foot right of way meets our standards. The frontage that they planned and lot areas are all meeting our standards. Here are the discussion points. And Scott and I have talked since I wrote the staff report, and so I have a little more insight on this now. So one question I wanted to discuss was, is the hammerhead turnaround temporary until a future road is brought in, or is it a permanent dead-end street? So Scott looked at where this is located, and he said it would need to be a temporary turnaround. In the future, another road will need to go back there so that the adjoining properties can have access. They decide to subdivide. So this would be actually a temporary turnaround, which is allowed by our code. If it was a permanent dead-end street, then our code says it would need to be a cul-de-sac. But since it's not, it's just temporary, then a hammerhead is okay. The next discussion point, so sorry, that's not even really a discussion point anymore, because I talked to Scott and I had a discussion. That probably should have happened earlier, but sometimes we get super busy with other stuff. Okay, the second thing was, can the area around the temporary turnaround be counted as frontage? So like I said, they have to have at least 150 feet. This one is 152. There's another subdivision we're looking at that hasn't come to you yet, but they want to do a hammerhead turnaround. And they were wanting to count this part here, this edge, as frontage. The difference is that their hammerhead will be a permanent dead-end street, where this one is temporary. So I feel like it's okay because it's temporary. I don't know if Scott wants to weigh in on that.
Yeah, but that hammerhead, if that road ever goes through, the hammerhead part there'll be a note on the plat that says that property will be given back. The hammerhead will be removed. When the road goes through, it's no longer be necessary.
Then it goes back to their property. So as long as it's temporary, it's okay. Okay, the third thing is that lot 3, and in my staff report, I said lot 5, but Scott and I looked at it today, and actually lot 5 is fine, because, so our code says that our zoning map shows that the line between residential half zone and the ag 1 zone, where that comes across the property, is 330 feet back from the lowway. So these two lots, 210 plus 110 feet, that's 335. So,
25, right?
oh my gosh,
You're right.
yeah, 325, sorry, it's been a long day, 325 feet. So there's still 5 feet to spare before this gets to the residential half zone. So these lot 5 is actually fully in the residential half zone, so that's good. Lot 3 is really the only one that we have an issue with now, where the line comes about probably like right here is drawn now, about 2/3 through, because like I said, 330 feet is residential half. This is about 390 feet. So 60 feet of lot 3 are in the ag 1 zone. So, is that okay? I talked to the city attorney, because I haven't encountered this yet, and he said that they actually have to be fully in the zone, or they have to meet the requirements of the ag 1 zone. So, Scott and I talked about this a little bit more, and we did some math, and we found that if you guys make these 110 feet,
Yeah, I've been thinking about it too.
you're still gonna have half-acre lots, and you'll need it.
It's just the only thing that I have the issue with is like the grandson that wants lot 4, like he
That's
doesn't
gonna be
have,
huge.
he doesn't have animals, he doesn't have horses, and it's just, if you could split that up and give each one of them a little more. and then-
Yeah, I personally like this layout. I do, and I wish that, there was some more flexibility that we could easily give you, but there's really not.
I mean, I can shorten them up if that's,
You can shorten it, so you have a couple options that I can see. You can shorten them to the 110 feet, or you can apply for a zone change for lot 3 and just make that entirely residential half. And we can process that zone change the same time we do the subdivision, so that it's not extra meetings. But a zone change application does cost $2,500, even for something that's little like this.
how big of an issue would that be? I mean, where I'm not adding any more lots or anything,
Yeah.
would that be a?
I mean, I'm not the planning commission, you're the ones that are giving the recommendation to the city council. How do you feel about changing the zoning on lot 3?
It's only lot 3 that needs to be rezoned.
And it wouldn't be adding any more
It
lots.
would just be,
It would
it
just-
wouldn't be actual
Just-
lots,
I
just
think,
60
I feel like the
feet.
layout this way works better
Yeah,
myself.
Because if you shorten it, you end up
I end up with a big
Small
lot back
lots,
there.
Really
a big
big
lot on
number
number
four.
4.
you're not adding lots,
Which
you're
is
just-
already a big lot.
Yeah, it's already.
Considering the others, it's
Yeah.
gonna be 300 feet. I don't honestly see an issue with it.
And I'm assuming that you don't have further right, like that makes this infinitely more complicated to shift right.
what do you mean?
So is the width, the full width of the lot that we're talking about, or is there still part of it staying in the family to the,
To the west.
West.
It goes to, it's actually my cousin's property behind us.
guy?
So it's locked.
So that's all we have, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And if I don't do a temporary hammerhead, then I'm gonna landlock him. I don't wanna do that.
Right.
understood. Yeah, I don't think a zoning change is a big deal.
I don't know.
And we can restrict the zoning change to this specific lot?
We would,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be very specific to this area. So it would be adding 60 feet just on the lot 3.
So do we have any considerations that we weigh when making a zoning change, or is it completely ad hoc?
Every zone change is a legislative decision, so it's completely up to the discretion of the planning commission and city council.
Okay.
I mean, we look at the general plan, we look at our codes, most of the general plan though, and decided that it's kind of in accordance with that. As a planner, I don't see a problem with this, but I don't get a vote, so that's why I wanted you to think about it.
Could I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Like, I know when you and I talked the first time, we looked at your future
Land use
Plan.
map.
and you have everything in the back, just half-acre lots.
Yeah, no,
Future.
that's a good point, and that is one thing we can consider that I didn't think about, is we'll pull out the future land use map when we're looking at zone changes. And where that's already in the future, supposed to be residential half, it makes sense, I think, to approve that type of zone change. So. Okay, the last thing to discuss is, the property line of this parcel extends to the center line a little way. I'm gonna go back to this map that we were looking at. So. There we go. So this is how we used to do subdivisions a long time ago, is that we draw the property line out to the center of the road. We don't do that anymore. We want the property line to be outside of the right of way. So part of the subdivision, at least for this portion down here where we subdivided, would be to bring this property line forward a little bit. So,
Well, it'll still show up like that
okay,
because the way the county does that, you can see the red line.
yeah,
The red line means that property's been subdivided.
okay,
And if you look at the plat, that's the very last page,
okay.
the 30 feet that goes from the center of the road to the property
Mhm.
is actually dedicated to Francis.
Okay, yeah, let me pull that up.
So it'll still kind of be drawn like that because,
Oh, yeah, I see how they did it, okay.
Yeah. it's just the way the county does their mapping.
Okay, well, I guess it's already dedicated to the city, so my last discussion point is null and void.
No, he's still got to do it as part of the subdivision.
Okay, he still has to do it,
Where the
but
subdivision's being done, he'll still have to dedicate that.
I guess it's just a good, like, reminder that you want to do that, just like you did before. Okay, so my recommendation is to discuss this proposed subdivision, address any concerns or questions you have, and then advise the applicant of any changes that will be required to meet the code before proceeding with the subdivision process. This gives them a chance to iron out any problems before they start paying a lot of money for subdivision applications and surveys and all that kind of thing. So that's why we do the concept plan.
Do we foresee development? Obviously, we're making that a temporary hammerhead. Do we need to talk about walkways or whatever, paved walk paths, at least on one side or the other?
That'll kind of come with,
Later stuff.
the preliminary plan.
Okay.
This is just kind of concept, but you can talk about it now.
I mean, that's, I think one of the things that I think as we go forward, we want to incorporate sort of like Hart Crossing where we have at least some sort of safe path for children to get to buses. So that's something I think you should consider when you're drawing this up.
Is that the city standard now, to have a trail on one side?
It's one of the city standards, but that's what we're mainly doing.
Yeah, so that would be required.
It would be required, okay. That was my only thing.
This is not a public hearing tonight. When he comes back for the preliminary plan, then we will have a public hearing at that meeting. Did you want to say anything else, Wyatt?
So where would I just go from here? So do I gotta reapply for the zone change? Is that?
If you want to keep the lines as they are now, then you would have to apply for a zone change. So you can do that at the same time you do the preliminary plan application.
No, I think we're good.
So then we need a recommendation to the city council?
No, you actually, we don't need a motion on this because concept plans are more just a discussion item, giving them feedback. So do you have any other feedback or anything else that you want to add? Did you get all the information you needed from this?
I think so.
Okay, so everybody's good with him proceeding, like we talked about, with the zone change and this layout. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You guys have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, last item. I don't know who wants to lead it. Rich, if you want to take over, okay, we'll keep going.
I mean, we're on the general plan update discussion.
If you want to keep going, I mean, you're doing a fabulous job.
I think we're formal here tonight.
Was there anything that we needed to discuss regarding the general plan update?
Yes, there are things we need to discuss. So, let me pull out my book. All right, so I've been working on the general plan, taking into account the information we received from the surveys and the discussions we've had about it. I wanted to go through the updates that I've been making. I think I'm gonna try to get to where we can pass this on to the city council for their December meeting, so we can wrap this up at the end of the year. So every time for the rest of the year, we'll just be taking a chunk of the general plan and getting it ready for city council to hopefully approve. So this time, we already talked a little bit about the introduction. I didn't really make any changes there, so I don't really want to go over the purpose too much unless anyone had anything that they wanted to look at. Okay. And we'll come back to this later. If there's something that you want to talk about next meeting that was a change we made earlier, that's okay. Just bring it up. This is something that's it's pretty flexible. We can look at anything you guys want to, but I'm going to try to focus on a few specific areas. So based on the survey, I felt like there should be 5 elements of the general plan. We're required to have land use and transportation, and then I thought maybe we should add 3 other elements: public utilities, parks, open space and trails, and commercial and economic development. Seem like pretty concrete ones. Is there anything that I'm missing there that you guys think would be a good element to cover? Okay. Then I'm just going to keep working on that structure. So tonight we'll talk mostly about land use and transportation. And then we'll cover the other 3 elements in the next meeting. And then at the last meeting we have this year in November, we'll talk about the appendix and anything else. Anything else we want to tie up before we're done, okay? So the mission statement for the city, this comes from our previous general plans. The city of Francis has a core mission to provide the highest quality of life in a rural atmosphere through essential infrastructure, public safety, and recreation by allowing responsible growth within the constraints of fiscally responsible government. Is everyone good with keeping in that mission statement? Okay. All right. This section is all new. So I covered So this section covers kind of where the vision is, what do we value in the city and where do we want to go? So I said that the most important part of the Francis general planning process is the community vision that indicates the direction the community would like to take in planning for the future. The community vision guides the formulation of goals and actions set forth in the general plan. The Planning Commission created a survey to gather and understand the community's vision. The results of the survey were incorporated into this general plan. And planning on the appendix will have a lot of the survey results. In case anyone really wants to get into that, they can see it, but it will be in the appendix. Okay, the residents of Francis value their community as a great place to live. It is important to protect the pace of life and character of the city while providing appropriate services for its residents. Core values: rural character and quiet small town atmosphere, smart, well-planned incremental growth, scenic beauty and access to lakes, mountains, and outdoor recreation, friendly people and a sense of community, open space and agricultural land, dependability of public utilities, specifically water, a well-maintained and efficient transportation system. Does anyone want to make any changes to that, or any suggestions, additions, anything?
What transportation system?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to the transportation. Okay, even the roads we have, they're the transportation system. It's small, but it's a system. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to the vision statements. We're gonna talk about the first two tonight. The first one is land use, and this is, I tried to encapsulate just in like one or two sentences what's important to us about land use. So, Francis will continue to be a rural and family-friendly community. Preservation of our agricultural heritage, dark skies, scenic views, and open spaces are prioritized. Growth will be well-planned and will be consistent with the zoning map and the general plan. Any tweaks?
I like it.
Okay, you guys are an easy group.
I think it was well written.
Thank you. I don't want this just to be Katie's general plan, though. I want it to be the planning commission's general plan. So feel free to jump in at any time.
I mean, I honestly, I think you've taken the survey results and you've laid it out pretty clearly, like, that's the people have spoken.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, that's exactly what I try to do, so I'm glad.
I'm waiting for transportation though.
Okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Okay, so I'm skipping down to, we'll just keep going with land use since we've already talked about that. If you looked at the last general plan, you remember that this existing conditions and trends was about 10 pages. So I've really tried to cut this down and just get to the point. So I talk about how Francis was originally settled as an agricultural community and its agricultural heritage continues today. It is surrounded by mountains where outdoor recreational activities abound. Francis and nearby communities, especially in bordering Wasatch County, have experienced significant population growth since 2017. Francis had the fastest rate of population growth in Summit County in 2022. Population growth is expected to continue at a fast rate in the next 5 years. The population is predicted to be, I just put an X in there, in 2030. And actually to get that number, so I'll put that in to remind myself. Okay. Over 550 residential dwellings and subdivisions or mixed-use developments have been approved but have not been built, enough to double the number of homes in the city. Additional growth is expected as traditionally agricultural areas within city limits are subdivided into neighborhoods and developed commercially. And then I go through all the zones we have. This is kind of the general things about those zones, just showing that we have a full range and mix of land uses. And then we'll have our zoning map here. We'll insert that into the document, our current zoning map. Okay, the next, does anyone want to talk about anything there, like existing conditions and trends?
No.
Yeah, okay, keep going then. So goals and policies, this is where we set the tone for how we want this zone, how we want this element to look, what we want land use to be looking like, what's important to us, our goals, and how we're gonna continue on, and then we'll look at specific actions we're gonna take to get there. Okay, so the first goal is to encourage development that respects and preserves the character of the city. So, here's the policies that will get us there. First one, encourage residential development to occur in conservation subdivisions that preserve open space. B, ensure that architecture in the C1 and CC zones reflects the mountain aesthetic and heritage of Francis. C, support continuation of agricultural land uses in Francis. D, identify and designate environmentally sensitive lands, scenic views, and important open spaces, and limit the adverse impacts of development on and near these lands. E, maintain an open space system that enhances quality of life, is interconnected, preserves environmental quality, and protects development from natural hazards. F, enact and enforce ordinances which protect dark skies. And G, ensure compliance with city codes and ordinances to minimize nuisances, control noxious weeds, and protect the character of residential neighborhoods. So anything we should add or take out of those policies to get us to that goal to respect and preserve the character of the city?
Are we gonna put an appendix with examples of mountain aesthetics and Francis heritage?
That is a great question. So one of the projects that I'm putting in this general plan, or that I propose to put in the general plan, is to look at those sections of the code again, revisit those, and hire hopefully an architect to help us create the right language for what we want there. We really struggled. We spent years talking about this since about 2018 or 19. Years have we spent talking about what that aesthetic would look like in those zones. And we still have not really gotten to a great place. It's very vague. It says that we want a mountain aesthetic, and we want like frontier themes. We had a commercial development project come in the last year or two. They were trying to do something on this corner, right here by the four-way stop. And it took several meetings for the planning commission and city council to kind of get to a place where they were okay with the architecture. And the developer was really, really frustrated because they felt like they really didn't know what they were supposed to be designing. Their code wasn't clear. So that's one thing that I would really like to look at is adding pictures and getting a professional person that does architecture to tell us this is what you want in architecture language, so that we have something better to give people and we're getting what we want in return. So that's one of the projects. Anyway.
I'd just like to see that. I mean, I realize this might be too soon, but it'd be nice to put that in as an appendix on your plan, so that every time we change, you're not having the discussion again.
Yeah, so what the plan does is it sets the priorities that we're gonna look at in the next 5 years. So that we can set when we wanna do that. We'll put a schedule to that, and if that's one of the first things that we wanna do after this plan is approved, we'll put it on the agenda for next year as something that we wanna update next year.
Okay.
Does that work? I think we're gonna want it in code though, because the general plan is kind of a guide, and the code is, you shall do this, like, it's more, you have to do this and follow these regulations. So I think we want those architectural guidelines in our code.
Okay.
So one question I have with 1C,
Yeah,
do we have any way to actually accomplish that, or is it kind of an aspirational thing?
couple ways. So if we had a zone change that came before us, one thing we would do is pull out the general plan and say, does this meet the goals of the general plan? And I would bring this statement out and say, we said that we were gonna support the continuation of agricultural land use in Francis. So if someone's trying to take an agricultural piece of land, maybe on our future land use map, it's shown as agriculture, and they're trying to do a commercial project there, you can say, no, we're trying to preserve agricultural land, especially in this area on our zoning map, and future land use map, we're showing that we want agricultural land here, we don't want this to be commercial. So that's how we would use it.
Okay.
And we also put a note on our plots saying that
Yeah, we
you
do
can't
put a note
complain
on
about
that.
smells and noises and stuff from agriculture. So people still complain.
That's
They
true.
move here for the
The rural
rural experience,
And then we accept the best.
but we don't like cows running down the road and pooping on the road.
Yeah, I heard, some of them have recently moved to Hart. Weren't aware that, the agricultural open space would have like steers and sheep, and they wouldn't have moved here if they would have known that, so. Sorry, this is,
Did they not come here before they moved?
Well, they weren't there when they bought their house. It was just a field. It was nice.
Okay.
oh, they've
You
got
don't,
sheep
they
in
don't
their
know what goes
backyard.
in fields, but there wasn't a cow in the field today.
And just horses.
Right. Yeah, we just pulled the rug out from them, so. It happens. Anyway, yeah, we can also, like if someone does a conservation subdivision and they wanted to keep some land as agricultural, like we did in Hart, yeah, that meets the intent of our general plan.
How do you go about doing 1D?
So in our code, we really wouldn't change anything in our code, but we do have the sensitive lands, part of our code. And so it kind of points to that, saying that we're gonna have certain areas in Francis that aren't prime for high-density development. Hillsides, ridge lines, anywhere near a wetland, those areas are not gonna be your high-density apartment complex. So it's just saying that we're gonna keep, working on that and looking at that. I feel like the codes we have in place now accomplish that goal, but it's still a good policy to have.
Sorry.
It's okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, and I'll just mention it now, but I did put in a project to look at the dark sky requirements, if you want to become a dark sky city. So that will be another project along with the architectural design elements, is looking at what it takes to be a dark sky city. Is that a good fit for us? We can decide that later when we have more information, but we'll look at what it would take and if we want to do it. Or if there's certain pieces of it that would be a good fit for Francis, we'll do those. So. Okay, anything else? No? All right, then I'm gonna move on to goal 2. Carefully plan for growth, ensuring that development occurs in suitable locations. So, first one, prioritize development within the existing city boundaries. That one is a good one to have, a good policy to have, because when anyone comes to ask for an annexation, say, we are trying to build within our bounds first, before we go out to the far reaches of the boundaries. Guide land use and growth decisions through the application of the general plan, zoning map, and the future land use map. We're gonna stick to those. So don't be asking for zone changes all the time. Okay, density increases should be considered only upon demonstration of adequate infrastructure, resource availability, and benefit. Transitions between different land uses and density should be made gradually with compatible uses or buffers. And condition development approval on construction of adequate culinary water, sewer, storm drainage, and transportation systems. Last, commercial uses should be highly accessible and provide adequate access and parking. So one project that goes along with D is to look at our zoning map and see if there's areas where we don't have good transitions. Like if we go from a commercial zone to a residential half zone, maybe that's not the best transition there. Like if you have a half acre lot, do you really want to be next to a 40-foot commercial development? We're just gonna look at that. We may or may not make changes to the zoning map, but it's something to look at to get better transitions.
So one question regarding QA, doesn't that limit our ability to plan for our future? Just because people outside the city can still grow and develop.
I don't think it's saying that we can't annex. I think it's saying that it needs to be considered, like, try to do something in the city boundaries first. There's actually quite a bit of land within the city boundaries. And I'm gonna pull up this map that we had up earlier, but it shows the Francis boundary, which is interesting. A lot of other cities have like some pretty defined boundaries, but not too far, not really though. Okay, so that black line, probably easier to see there. The black line that goes all around the city. Sorry, it's still hard to see. Can you kind of see it there? You know what? I'm gonna pull up the zoning map. Probably a good time to do it. Okay, so here's our city. That's much easier to see. I have a newer zoning map I'm working on that incorporates Hidden Meadows, so it goes out here more like this. But I think if we're looking at an annexation, for me, if I was on the city council or the planning commission, I would want to fill in these areas with an annexation more than something like way out here or way up here. Because, you know, I'd like to kind of, maybe I'm just OCD, but I want to make everything a little more
I've
square.
tried to fill those in for years.
I know, it's really up to the property owners that live there. But if someone came in and wanted to annex in one of those areas, if I were on planning commission or city council, I would, yeah, this is an area that we should be filling in. It's close to the center of the city. It makes more sense. Our services are already close than way out on the fringe. That's just my opinion. You don't have to take that. That's set in stone, but it's my opinion. So, also, there's just quite a bit of area, like all this here, that could be subdivided at any time and developed. So,
you look at that piece behind where it says Circle T.
right here, or here,
That's right there.
yeah.
The Patty Larson used to own all that. She said she would never develop. Then the Crystals have it now. Yeah. And I heard part of their thing is that they weren't supposed to develop or something like that. That's how they got the property. So, I don't know if any of you remember Paul, I can't remember his last name now. He was the mayor probably 3 or 4 mayors ago. He wanted to fill this in. Do that too. So
It's just timing,
it's just where people want to develop and people that own property sell, then people want to.
right? It's all about what properties for sale, who wants to sell. And if they're not in Francis, they're not nearby, they usually want to jump into Francis because it's gonna be more dense zoning than in Gilpin County. Anyway,
Yeah, so as long as that first priority doesn't lead to the situation where one of those chunks of land comes in, we say, no, we're prioritizing growth in the city.
Yeah.
We're not gonna annex, and that's fine, but if,
do we want to change the wording on that? Do we want to add that if it's in the H? I don't know how you say that, but maybe more.
That would be considered,
Yeah, like
Some
annexation near the.
yeah,
or, I like the word prioritize. I think it sums up what we're trying to do.
I mean, as long as we're not restricted, I think it's fine. Because they're gonna come to the city anyway.
Oh, they are.
Oh, I know.
We're gonna see one next week, probably.
For an annexation?
And that one's not so bad. You're gonna see one probably in 2 or 3 months that will be, well, it's gonna be interesting meeting. So maybe you'll see it. I don't know. Council has to accept the petition. They didn't last time. They asked for a year ago. So you'll see it's right up here. Maybe you'll see it, maybe not. But you might in a couple of months. So, do you want to leave it as is, or do you want to think about changing the wording on that? Prioritize.
I like prioritize. I think, like I said, it says what we're trying to do.
We could have had some wording like annexations near,
I think just because we prioritize doesn't mean.
it doesn't mean you
Just
can't.
says we would like to
It
see
doesn't
you
mean
do
you're
that
close.
first.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. It's not like
Yeah,
that.
that was
Right.
one of my questions,
Okay.
are we close-minded?
Then we'll just leave it as is. If you guys want to think about that more, we can revisit it next time too. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts on this goal?
The only thing I have is on 2C and 2E. Are there actually provisions in our code that you rely on to ensure those things?
Yeah, we do have in our code that for an annexation, they have to, one, show that it's gonna be a benefit to the city. And two, that it's basically the same wording, prioritize development within the existing city boundaries. So they have to show that, and then there's a whole list of all the things. And I know it's on there in the code, in the annexation, guide, what is that called, Scott? The annexation. I lost my mind.
Awesome.
Yeah, annexation policy, yeah. It says that they have to prove that we can provide services, or we have to basically say that we will be able to provide services to them. So it is in there. I don't feel like we need to make any change in that, but when we consider an annexation, we're gonna rely heavily on what's in the general plan first and foremost. So. Like the last one that came in, the kind of one I was telling you about from a year ago, I think that's one of the main reasons the city council didn't approve that petition, is because they felt like we had so many approved subdivisions and houses, and we actually had enough to about double the size of the city. They felt like we needed to see how that builds out, and make sure we can provide services to those houses before we approve anything else.
Well, isn't that still the case? Wasn't that somewhere that we still have 550 residential
Right.
dwellings?
That's why they didn't accept that annexation.
But are we still,
Yeah, that was in,
Yeah, those are still approved.
the existing conditions, I put that in there, about 550.
and what are we at now? Do you remember?
Well, it was over 600, so now I'm estimating about 550.
Was that with the return of, is it Stewart? What's over,
Yeah, so it's,
because they wanted back something on their permits, right?
yeah, so that is,
Do you know what I'm talking, by the cemetery?
yeah, this will make it easier, okay. So it's a lot of houses in Hart, they're going now, so some of those have been taken off of their residences now, but Circle T is a big one. That has been approved since 2002, and you've probably seen all the old roads over there. They built those in 2018, and they've been sitting ever since, and that's about 148. No,
No, it's only 95.
95, okay. Stewart's is 148. Tifton was
76.
76, thank you. In my little chart, I have a list of these on the table. But Tifton is 76, Circle T, that's another big one. Tifton, and actually now it's called Elizabeth Francis Gate, starting, but they haven't sold any, they haven't started building yet, building houses. That one also was approved in about 2002. It's just finally getting going. And then Stewart Ranches, It's another big one. So, you know, a lot of those are coming from those 4 subdivisions.
But the infrastructure's there.
Circle T it is. Foothills at Francis Gate, they're building it right now. Hart, it's done, it's pretty much done. And Stewart's, it's a work in progress, but they're about halfway, would you say, on the infrastructure? Maybe go a third.
They've got a lot of the main road and the main water line and the sewer lines, but there's like phase 6, 7, 8, 9, still have to build 10.
2 phases, they need to build out some. Like Circle T, they have roads in, but they might have to update the roads and the infrastructure there because it's just one city. That'll probably be quite a bit of work when it takes out. Anyway. Okay, any other, sorry, you asked about, I totally forgot now. Did we cover it? What you had a question on?
My question was on 2C and 2E
Right,
about density increases.
that's right.
Is there existing code that helps reassure that this is being done or that
Yes.
there's a reason to deny building permits even though they've got the property, right? That there's code that they have to.
Yes,
have
there are
for
codes
these
set in
uses.
place, like, someone wants, like, at Foothills at Francis Gate, they want to be able to start selling lots, but they have to meet certain standards first. And then before they pull the building permit, they have to meet other standards.
Like they need a road.
Yeah, they have to be able to
They need
get
fire
access.
protection and an all-weather road. And that, we used to require all the infrastructure to be in. But the state legislature came and said, no, this is when you can start issuing building permits.
But before they get occupancy, they have to.
They have to have that.
Yes.
Yeah. They have to have water and sewer and a road.
To start building, they just need fire protection and an all-weather road.
Right.
All weather meaning gravel?
As long as the fire district says they can drive a fire truck down it, we can let them know.
They're always on.
No, they're close.
You get a 4-wheel fire truck,
They were close back in June.
altering tires. Okay,
Well, and I think the other question kind of related to that is, as the city, so what level of our ability to provide infrastructure do we want to make sure is in place? Not just that the developers have put in water lines, but that we can put water in those lines, that we can take their sewage. Like, do we have anything to track that?
Yeah, that's why we update the building the new tank and the well and all that kind of stuff. So.
What about snow removal? At what point do we say we need another vehicle to do that?
Currently, the subdivisions, we don't have to plow the snow until they're 50%
Occupied?
occupied. So it's gonna be a while, but technically, I think we could use another truck right now. And I think the city is looking at buying another one, so.
yeah, that might be in next year's budget.
Yeah.
Nice. So is that 50% each phase, not the entire subdivision?
Right.
So like part of their phasing, the first phase, I guess they didn't really have any, but phase 2 might be getting a little closer. Okay, any more discussion on this? Okay, so implementation, those 3 projects I discussed. Does anyone want to add any other projects or talk about these ones? So it was the architectural design, dark skyscape city, and then updating zoning map and future land use map, looking at transitions between zones.
I think that looks great.
Okay. If you think of any great projects you want to add that later. So Scott, think of projects for Scott. He likes extra work and projects. Well, we're getting to that part, transportation, number 5. So Okay, so transportation, the vision is Francis will maintain, improve, and expand the existing transportation system to continue to allow for the safe and efficient flow of traffic. Justin, I thought you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah. Remind me.
I don't know.
Was
Can't remember
it,
which
what,
one.
is it, whether it existed,
Oh.
transportation?
Yeah, I was being facetious, not about, transportation, we're in the public realm. No, but, and I brought this up before, and I'm sure it's not super popular, but as Highway 32 continues to get busier and busier, like how do we pursue with the state, like creating roundabouts or lights or something before
Stoplights, yeah.
somebody gets killed trying to turn left on Highway 32?
It's all traffic based. They do, traffic studies every year.
Mm,
And once it's warranted, that's no good enough.
okay, so somebody actually does monitor that?
Yeah, I don't know, the traffic counters, I can't remember if I drove across them
I
today.
think they were there.
They were out the
not too
last
long
week
ago.
or so. So
Yeah.
they've been out, they monitor the traffic. We talk to them all the time, you know, whenever a subdivision goes along the roads, we
Yeah.
talk to them to see if they'll decrease the speeds. But then they'll tell us, if you want to decrease the speed, we'll do a speed study. And if we do a speed study, what do you think the average speed of 32 is?
It's probably
The average?
It's not 35. So to get them to lower to 35 would be a big thing. And I actually saw in Charleston, they wanted the speed limit to be 25. It was 35, and they did a speed study, and it went to 45.
Yeah.
So we've been, you know, we've talked to them, and we've been really careful about, you know, when the new developments come along, then we work with them and stuff. I'm sure we can. But as far as roundabouts, stoplights, that's all them, and when things are warranted, direct by traffics or traffic accidents, things like that. So.
Got it. Okay.
This might be hearsay, but I heard that they're talking about widening 32, at least in Oakley. Have you heard anything about that?
I hadn't heard about that.
In Oakley?
Yeah, the planners there, well, it was in those regional meetings that we had.
Steve Smith wants to do it, or?
No, it's just part of UDOT's future
UDOT's
improvement plan. So,
We've been trying to get them to widen between just as we can, so you want that American. But that's taken a while, just because of wetlands, they don't want to mess with wetlands, but. Yeah, I haven't heard anything, I've heard rumors about it.
okay.
Yeah, that's my only thing. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, especially if is it Circle T across from Wild Willow?
Kind of a little bit.
Yeah,
The
but
main entrance for Circle T is,
off.
Is where the wood shop is.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
That's where the main entrance is.
Got it.
but I think a lot of people will go in through Harley's Loop.
You can get to Circle T through Harley's Loop.
Yeah, drive over there one day. Take a walk. You can take a walk on
Yeah.
Circle T roads. You might see some junk out there.
Okay.
Hopefully not, try to clean that up. All right. Okay, so the vision, everyone good with the vision? Existing conditions, there are 3 road classifications in Francis, arterial, collector, and local. The arterial roads are state roads 32 and 35, which are maintained and operated by UDOT. Francis City is responsible for maintaining the collector and local streets in Francis. Francis City is a growing community surrounded by undeveloped land. As the communities continue to expand, new streets will need to be constructed in order to maintain an efficient and effective transportation system. Then we'll put it in the street master plan map. So that shows we were planning streets all over the city. So like the new subdivision that we just talked about tonight, show the road, it's gonna go up, future road extending from that road they're planning. Okay, the first goal for transportation is ensure that the city's transportation systems meet present and projected demands. So, policy 1, policy A, as directed by the street master plan, reserve the necessary rights of way in new developments to meet the road's ultimate function in the system. B, all streets should be completed in compatibility with the master plan and with future development patterns. C, require public and private development to participate in major street system improvements through construction of street improvements and impact fees. D, continually monitor and evaluate the road system to ensure that proposed and existing road designs will adequately meet the demands of the community. And E, coordinate with Summit County and UDOT over the design and location of the major street system within future growth areas. And F, the street master plan should be regularly updated to reflect current development patterns, changes in transportation needs, and projected funding levels. Thoughts? Feedback, anyone?
So one question there, so, so like by Hartsway on Lambert, we didn't get the land to build a path. Have we changed anything since then so that we'll always get the land for the path?
Yeah, you're right. I've walked on Lambert since Hartman, and I wish we had a path here. I don't know, Scott, do you know?
That's something we put in the trails, so we really didn't have a trails plan through there. There was room in the right of way, but a trail if there ever is one to go there.
Okay.
But, I don't know. Trails used to be a bad word around here.
Really?
That's why Wild Willow doesn't have sidewalks. That's why we have 30-foot wide roads, because the kids are gonna walk on the sides of the roads. So we can snowplow the roads and not have to worry about sidewalks and stuff.
That's everywhere but Foothill.
What's that?
That's everywhere but Foothill.
Yeah, Foothill's a whole other story. But yeah, so trails are kind of new, and that's something that we're working on, maybe even having a trail impact fee and things with this.
Yeah, so one of the elements is like parks, open space, and trails. Does it make sense to keep it like that, or should we do like transportation and trails? You're kind of, as I was thinking about this, I'm like, it could go either way, I don't know.
I think trails would be on its own.
Yeah. So I'll put in, when we do the trails, I'll put in there something about trails plan, and we'll kind of evaluate where future trails are going to be, especially on Lambert. If it helps.
We're just connected.
Connectivity is good. We're going for connectivity at some point, right?
It seems like if there's opportunities, we should make sure to grab them.
Yeah.
Right, and when the developer is
Right.
working, make them do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what I thought we were supposed to get in Hart Crossing. I thought we were supposed to have a trail system in there.
We do.
Yeah, there is. I
It's
want it.
inside, it's just not along Lambert.
Well, there's also one that's between Wild Willow and
Oh.
Park, but that's
One will fly.
Let's
The
do
One that won't die.
thing is like, we have trails in Hart Crossing. And we have trails that go tied to Wild Willow where there are no trails.
Mhm.
And then we have like, you went to Willows has a trail that ends in Wild Willow. We've been trying to put trails inside the subdivision, but as far as requiring the trails, because we don't have in the general plan and the master plan, we did get a trail that goes from Hallam up on the south side of Hart Crossing. We got the right of way for it. We asked for that, but if we have a trail master plan and stuff, when developments come, it's easier for us to get it from the developers without them saying we're exacting too much from them.
right, just say, just like the road, oh, you gotta put this road in, say, you gotta put this trail in, this is part of our master plan. And then we can use impact fees, if we wanna add a trail impact fees for new developments, and use that money to build out some of these little missing links. big missing links. Okay. Anything else on this one? Okay, second goal is to ensure that all city roads, parking, sidewalks, and trails are constructed and maintained to meet high quality standards and conform to relevant codes and ordinances. So policy A, follow street construction specifications as needed to prevent premature street deterioration. B, maintain effective engineering inspections and services to ensure all streets meet construction specifications and the city standards. C, utilize proper parking standards for all land use applications. D, regularly inspect streets, keep and follow a maintenance plan. E, all major construction and maintenance of streets should be included in the capital facilities program of Francis City. And F, some of the streets in Francis City are under the jurisdiction of other public entities, such as the state of Utah and Sonoma County. Coordinate and cooperate with such entities for the ongoing maintenance of these streets.
So in 2020, I watched my street get maintained, like they came and they put tar in between all of the cracks. And I haven't seen that since. We do that or UDOT does that?
We do that,
Spruce Way, that's a city
Is-
road.
as money allows. I was gonna say, transportation policy 2G, raise taxes so we could probably do improvements with you. We just talked about here,
Our taxes have doubled
right?
since I moved in.
But we're still, we still don't have adequate funds to completely maintain the roads the way we would like to.
Just because the Summit County assessments, like our houses have doubled in value, and so then that's passed to us in property tax increases, that doesn't necessarily translate to us getting more money in the city. We apply for like a set budget, and then they give us that money out of property taxes. So if we wanted to increase our city budget, we have to raise taxes.
Or get some commercial.
Yes. That's a good option.
Which is coming.
No, that's not enough.
We keep hearing
All
that.
of us are paying proper taxes and with everything going up with the rate of inflation, there's just not enough, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, we do try to do preventative maintenance, but we've got some new projects that we're doing that have taken the money that we haven't been able to do as much of that as we'd like to.
Don't scooter on Spruce Way, that's my only recommendation for you all. We have like some big tracks.
We do.
Well, part of that's because that road sat there for like 10 years, there was a lawsuit that had to do with that part of it. So it's sad, they didn't develop it, the road just sat, a lot of snow on it, it didn't get plowed off for years and years.
So in a couple of years, we'll be talking about Circle T roads.
Is that,
I hope not.
They sat for years and years.
thing is those aren't ours yet, we haven't accepted anything.
So,
And
yeah.
originally when they paved, they have to go down and put in another 2 inches of pavement over the, but that may have changed, I haven't driven the roads for over a year to see what kind of condition they're in, and they just have to start all over, pulverize those and start all over.
Okay. You ready to move on, or do we want to talk about this more?
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, the last goal for tonight is to improve the safety and accessibility of all city streets for use by all modes of transportation. Policy 3A, ensure the trails are incorporated into the design of all residential and commercial subdivisions. 3B, minimize non-local and commercial traffic within residential neighborhoods. 3C, provide for safe and convenient bicycle and pedestrian movement. And 3D, traffic signals should be installed as warranted.
Yeah, I think going back to the trails again, why not? As we're looking, I mean, we've prioritized our streets, we've said certain ones are arterial streets or feeder streets, different things. I think we should also use that to impact how we prioritize trail building. Because I think we're gonna have fewer fatalities on Aspen Road as opposed to on, I don't know, Lambert or Howell.
Right, you're right, like, 1700 South on Circle T, we did get them to build a trail along that road that eventually will go from 32 all the way up to Foothill.
Yep.
Get that entrance built.
So maybe we should say, like, in accordance with the Trails Master Plan
Yeah.
at the end of that sentence. And then on the master plan, we can have some kind of system to show a priority, like this Lambert Trail needs to go in, and this Foothill Trail, definitely two areas where we could really use.
Yeah.
Lambert is always been kind of a funny thing because the county for a long time would not let us have any control over Lambert Lane until we owned both sides of the road. So if we owned out to the middle of the road, they said, that's still our jurisdiction. Now, as their budget increases, they're starting to say, wait a minute, we're not so, we don't want to control that so much. You own 50% of it, you need to start maintaining things like that. So, as that happens, we can have more control of what happens, if we ever annex on the north side of Lambert Lane, we could require them to build a road, build a trail along that side of the road and things like that.
I think there's some houses there, but I think connecting to the future trail allegedly can be down 32 makes sense.
Okay. Anything else with this one? No, third goal. Okay, so then there's 3 implementation projects. The first one is to update the street master plan to reflect current development patterns, changes in transportation needs, and projected funding levels. I just left the schedule blank on all of these, so we can discuss that probably at the last meeting of the year when we look at all of the different projects and we can prioritize which one we want to have go first. Second project, update the city street construction specifications. And project 3, update the city maintenance plan. These are all projects that Scott thought. So if you have questions, ask Scott.
I was forced to write down.
Forced. I'm sorry, a general plan right now that you have to count for 5 minutes. Okay, so that's it, the rest to cover on the general plan tonight.
I thought it was productive.
Yeah, I think that was some good conversation on that.
So then approval of minutes?
Yeah, so we have 3 months, April, May, and June.
Is everybody ready?
They're wonderful.
I motion
Yeah,
that
they
we
were super
approve April, May, and June as written.
Second motion.
Okay, we'll do a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. We're unanimous.
Okay. Last,
Planner update.
planner update. Okay, so first, thank you for all your help with Frontier Days. We really appreciated that. Felt like overall Frontier Days was a success. There's some things we'll work on for next year, but overall, pretty happy with how it turned out. So, if you have any great ideas, feel free to swing by the office and let me know your plans for next year and how much you want to help us. So, anyway, next meeting is probably going to be probably another longer-ish meeting. We have an annexation we're going to be looking at most likely. It'll be either October, maybe November, just depends on how quickly we get it done. That one doesn't seem too bad to me. And then there's a code text amendment we're going to look at. There's a hotel that's looking at St. Francis. And there's some things with our height that we looked at that are kind of a little outdated. The city council talked about last month. We talked about this height thing last month that maybe there's things that we can look at, so we're gonna look at that next month. And then we're gonna have a minor subdivision that comes in. It's just one lot. Someone's creating one additional lot for them to build off their family. It's off of Lambert Lane, our favorite place, so that, and then of course, about the general plan we'll be talking about too. So that's kind of the agenda for the next meeting, but, that's it for me, unless anyone else has anything else they want to ask.
The 19th then is for October.
Yeah, October 19th, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
I motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Okay. Thank you.